Hey Dan, it is December the 25th, 2010, and I am recording an introduction to this next video, which you're about to see. This is the cemetery walk, which I think I had told you about, that we did a little over 2 months ago when it was still warm in Winona and green mostly. Anyway, I finally got this video edited. I've only been working on it for 2 months. Of course, you'll watch it and you'll think, wow, 2 months. Not much to show. Yeah, sorry about that. But it's the best I could do. I started off with start making a video. Somebody called me. Hold on. Hello. Hi there. Merry Christmas to you. How are you? Yeah. Oh, actually, Andy, I'm right in the middle of making a video for Dan. He's actually watching me talk to you on the phone. Dan, Amy says hello. Merry Christmas from one Baha'i to another. No, it's literally the video. Hey, Beth, can you grab that? Yeah. It's your cousin.
Yes, I saw.
Okay, hold on. She's going to grab it. So anyway, sorry about that, Dan. So it starts off with just a little bit of video from around the cemetery. And then what I did is I cut in some video from 2 different angles, one that I shot and one that Duncan shot. Fortunately, the one that Duncan shot, the one that's straight on, is rather blurry, so bear with. Anyway, Christmas was another day here. We went sledding. We went to a movie. We fought. So, enjoy the video.
We don't want to be laying anything on the headstones.
Why not?
Respect. I think we talked about that
Oh,
yesterday.
yeah, honey, don't put that over there.
Right now, and Winona gets out early release today.
Beth, can you turn around?
You like the purse?
Yeah.
And the muggy? Well, I just think it's too much of your water bottle or tea bottle match with your outfit. Well, it's perfect for Winona's face, so all the way. And is it a table top that?
Wes has the kids this weekend, so he's got Kaya on Saturday. So Allison kind of had to check with him, make sure he was up for doing that.
Good luck. And to you too. Light in there. Someone's still alive in there.
A behind the scenes special?
Alright, let's go.
Alright.
Welcome everyone, I am Mary Hamilton, Mrs. Andrew Hamilton. Sam ran again after Dr. Mayo's term as mayor and won and served in 1883.
Mrs. Hamilton, Sam, wasn't he the mayor in Rochester when that devastating tornado?
Sam,
remember to tell you that I'm an FBI that Mary
I'll remember to call them, Harriet, just not right now. Sam, after serving as mayor, continued with his business and charitable interests until
And Sam came back to Winona, did he not, after he got cancer, to move in with you and Andrew so you could care for him?
He most definitely did. He did live with us, and you were so helpful at the time of his death.
Well, thank you. George Hillier and Company has always tried to ease folks' pain during their time of loss of a loved one.
And then I married Miss Ellen Brown.
And we had a good life together, with 3 children being born. But then, in 1888, I came down with consumption.
Tuberculosis, you'd call it now.
My skin grew pale. I felt cold and my heart became weak. And there was horrible coughing of blood, which frightened our children terribly.
I won't forget about the Uncle Samuel and the wedding, but for now, forgive my manners and allow me to introduce you to George Hillier, owner of the Hillier Furniture and Mortuary Undertaking Company, one of the leading establishments of its kind in Winona.
Thank you, Mrs. Hamilton. Actually, that's George J. Hillier, at your service. George Hillier, my father, was trained as a furniture and cabinet maker, and I joined his business in 1877 after I graduated from high school.
We tried all the medicines we could afford. We even tried a new medication called Browning's sarsaparilla cure. There were wonderful testimonies of people who'd tried it and gotten well.
Funeral services, as you all know, every civilization attends to the proper care of the dead. They have 3 things in common, every culture does, where death is concerned. 1 is a funeral ritual of some sort. 2 is a sacred place like this one to lay the dead. And the 3rd is some way to remember them by.
Charles spent just about all the money we had to send me to a sanatoria, a kind of hospital.
Why is it in town so often you see the mortuary and the furniture store having the same name?
Well, it was only made sense to call on a furniture maker to make a coffin because we had the wood and we had the skills and, of course, we had the tools. In fact, speaking of the wood, I have just a piece you. With that newfangled thing in your hand, step forward, please. You do not look well. Yes, you. With the pale, frightened look. Oh, step forward, please. You may have just received. What the mother called me about 2. We were originally called undertakers, though as the years went by, we were something called funeral directors or morticians. Funeral directing was done in ancient times, most famous by the Egyptians who embalmed their dead. But the modern funeral industry really didn't emerge until the 1870s. Before that, as you all know, families took care of their own dead. They bathed them, they clothed them, and they placed them in coffins in the fanciest room in their house, the parlor, thus the term funeral parlor. Embalming the dead began during the Civil War, where it was used extensively to preserve the bodies of dead soldiers so they could be shipped back home to their families for burial. When President Lincoln was assassinated, he was embalmed. And over time, the practice of embalming began to be accepted by the general public. And as the practice of embalming spread, so did the need for funeral parlors.
We called upon your establishment at the time of Sam's burial. He was laid out in our parlor, and the funeral was actually held in our home.
Yes, and that became less and less common. As bodies were embalmed, bereaving families began to call on the funeral director to handle all the details of the funeral, including laying out of the body at the funeral parlor instead of the home. That way the family could receive guests, they could hold a formal service. And over time, the practice of viewing the body in the private home eventually completely disappeared.
Did you always feel comfortable dealing with the dead and the grieving?
Oh, Mrs. Hamilton, I've always preferred to deal with the dead. They talk so little. But the grieving, I never really felt comfortable with until I myself buried 2 young wives. Post-mortem, of course. Which left me with 3 young children to raise on my own.
Quite interesting. Could you share some of the customs of burial with us?
Of course, Mrs. Hamilton. The most obvious custom that you're all going to be familiar with is one that's visible right away, and that's the custom of bringing flowers to funerals. But do you know where that custom came from? Yes. Absolutely, it was a sign of honor, and that they loved them, these beautiful flowers. Anybody else? Well, before bodies were embalmed, somebody was to To cover up the smell, yes. Before bodies were embalmed, they decomposed quickly, and decomposing bodies smell. So they would bring lots of flowers, lilacs, roses, to cover up the smell. But the most customs were from two reasons. One, from fear of the dead, and one, to help the dead pass over to the other side. In fact, when Sam died, Mrs. Hamilton, you remember we closed his eyes, and that was an attempt to shut that window between the spirit world and the living world.
I understand that sometimes pennies are put over the eyes.
Indeed, yes. That stems from the ancient belief that the dead soul had to pay the boatman to ferry them to the other side. But in the 19th century, it was very common when you carried a body out to always carry it out feet first. The fear was if you carried it out head first, that soul, that body could look back into the home and call the spirits of the living family members to join them. Pictures were laid down face down, and mirrors were covered to keep the dead soul from possessing the spirit of the living.
I understand sometimes bells were rung in the cemetery to scare off the spirits.
Yes, even today there's a great fear of ghosts in cemeteries, especially at night. But at funerals in the 19th century, we would often ring bells or shoot guns or even beat on the graves in order to scare the ghosts away.
Us Irish really enjoyed our wake. And I rather Grandma have a nappy I will do that.
All that's left to say is I myself died in 1908.
And I died in 1923. Young Harriet here died in 1907 from a very tragic house fire. Started from learning to iron with the old irons that you heated up in the fire.
We've lived our lives. You enjoy yours.
Young Harriet, would you thank them all for coming? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
As they say, still dead.